What is up to all my people who reside in the center? This is Center of the Circle podcast with Dominic, and tonight we are going to discuss a topic that I am going to direct mainly at the men, but that does apply to the ladies too. But I just had a really cool conversation with somebody, and I came up with the quote during this conversation that typically we want 100% love when we only show people 50% of us. Now, what does that mean? That means essentially we want people to love the whole part of us. We want people to love us deeply. We want people to love us for who we are, yet we only display 50% of who we are to them. A lot of people have personalities that lend them to be either defensive. That defense can look like being shy. That defense can be like look being the funny guy in the room. That defense can be dressing or how you come off. There's a lot of different ways that people can be defensive in terms of not showing their real genuine selves. And so I had this conversation with somebody and they were essentially saying how they don't like that everybody thinks that they're invulnerable. And so I said, well, do you show vulnerability often? And the answer was no. And that's especially for a lot of men. We don't show that vulnerability. We don't show our emotional vulnerability. We don't show our spiritual vulnerability. We don't talk about when we're depressed or when we're anxious, right? And a big one that I did that completely changed my relationship was we don't admit when we're hurt. And so when somebody says something, especially our significant other, comes at us or says something that we don't agree with, we typically want to come back with brute force, and then it turns into an argument instead of us actually saying what we really feel, which is what you said hurt me, right? Or we have something coming up and someone's asking how we're doing and we get snappy with them instead of just being genuine and saying, I feel anxious. And so once you unlock that part of you and yourself, so once you accept that you have an emotional side, that it's okay to express those emotions, that's the only time that we can actually ask for 100% love, when we show 100% of ourselves. So if you always are coming off as the tough guy, then you're only going to get love for when you're the tough guy. If you're always coming off as the funny guy, you're only going to get love when you're funny. If you're always coming off as a I'm self-sufficient or I don't need anyone's help person, you're not going to get love when you're vulnerable, when you're weak, when you do need help. And so it's important for us to show all sides of ourselves, to be genuine. And it's something that I personally went through in a big way with my sexuality, because I came out as being bisexual and I have felt that way for since I was like 8 years old, right? And I had promised that I'd never tell anyone this from the time I was a child to the time I was an adult. And the reason was not only did I grow up in a religious household, but as a man and as a black man, I knew how culture and society might look at me. And at this point, as an adult, I have a full blown marriage, lifelong friends, family who's known me all my life. And so telling them who I really was like the ultimate fear factor, right? It was like, if I reveal this to them, are they still going to love me? But the one thing I learned through that process was that the people that love you are generally going to love you no matter who you are. The only time that they don't love who you are is when you don't love who you are. Let me say that again. The only time people don't love who you are is when you don't love who you are. And so when you hide things, when you shy away from things, then you're not going to get love for those things, right? People are going to look down on them if you come out, or if they find out, how you really feel or about your emotions, or in my instance, my sexuality. If I had been shy about it or down about it or not proud about it, then other people wouldn't have either. So the key is, as always, is to look in the mirror, admit who you are, look into your feminine side. That's another video. I'll do another video on feminine energy in men. But as men, we have to look in our feminine side. What you could do is just Google feminine energy. Look at those qualities and see how much of those qualities that you have, because we both, as men, we have feminine and masculine energy. See, most of us only want to lean into the masculine, never to the feminine. But there's a reason why there's a disconnect there between us and the love that we want, especially from our significant others. You know, and this was part of the conversation that I thought was very interesting, because this person has not been able to share certain things with their significant other, right? Like literally, you can't share certain emotions and certain feelings because you feel like you're going to be judged. But again, if you haven't accepted them and if you don't love them, then yeah, no one's going to love them. But then you're only going to get 50% of love, because that other 50% of you, you're not revealing, you're not even giving people a chance to love you for who you are, yet you want love for who you are. Does that make sense? And that's exactly the situation I was in with my sexuality and a lot of other things. Now I can admit when I'm feeling anxious or when I'm feeling down or when I need help or when I want someone to call and check on me. I can say those things. I don't have to sit back and then wonder why no one's doing those things, right? Because for me, I was always raised to be self sufficient and always raised to not need help. And so everyone around me saw me as a guy that just never needed help until I finally accepted inside of myself and love the part of me that did need help, that did want affection, that did want emotional support, that did need spiritual support. And now I have that, you know, so it's very interesting. So just a quick video to point out that don't expect 100% love. Don't expect someone to love you for who you are when you haven't given them a chance to see who you are. Okay. So if you learn anything from this, let me know. If you want me to touch on anything else, let me know as well. But as always, this has been Center of the Circle podcast with Dominic, and I love you.